Hello and welcome to Blue Collar Wealth Club. I'm your host Jerry Garcia. Today we got a guest on. We got my buddy James Brown here. We got our Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Jerry Garcia, James Brown, and with Accelerated Capital. We're going to talk a little investing, talk about a little bit about what you do. I know you're into a lot of co-living. I know we've discussed numerous times about your kind of lease to own or lease option programs. But yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do, James.
Yeah, there's multiple things. I know you know my backstory, but I guess we could start with the rent-to-own, lease-to-own model. So we invest in single-family homes and help people that can't get qualified for a loan through a traditional bank but want to move into a home. And so we help facilitate that and help investors, just busy professionals that want to put their money into real estate but don't have the time, to figure it all out and be active in it, but they understand the power of that. So that's been our main thing. Up until pretty recently, we've shifted into co-living, which I think we'll talk about probably more. Co-living meaning renting by the room. So that's a way to get more cash flow than just regular renting to a family or an individual. Right. So
yeah, I know we've talked a little bit in the past about the rent to own program. I know it's great. I did a whole episode on just alternative loan programs for people who are self-employed, which can be a challenge. As you and I both know, qualifying for traditional loans is a lot harder when you own a business and you're trying to pay as little taxes as legally possible. And so, but that gives you other challenges in trying to qualify for a loan. So, no, I've reached out on a personal level when we thought we might jump into a house and weren't sure that the income on paper was going to work out. So, good program. I know co-living has been a big space that seems to be growing, especially here in Colorado. I know several different people who are getting into that, but I think it's not something that people are aware of. I know people know more of the short-term rental Airbnb model, but tell us a little bit more about kind of co-living as you see it.
Yeah, well, since you said something about short-term rentals, there was a wave, and that wave is cresting, or already has, basically because of rules,
right,
and competition. Rules and competition,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like in Denver, it has to be your primary home, and it's always been that way, I think, since short-term rentals came up. So there's very few places in Colorado specifically that you can do it as a sole investment that's not your primary. So right out of the gate, it makes it hard. And then now there's just so much competition with so many people getting into that. Co-living, on the other hand, is going the other way. So Governor Polis just passed a law about 4 months ago saying that there was no restriction on how many unrelated people live in one home. Before, in other states, that's always been the case. That's starting to relax in other states, but we're leading the charge on that. And the reason is to help solve the affordability problem. As we know, homes are hard to afford to buy, but also for renters. And so this fills a gap between, we got a homeless problem too. So between homelessness and what it costs to get into a one-bedroom apartment, you're probably talking $1,500.
Yeah, on the low
some
end.
cases you got to pay for utilities on top of that, and so we can rent out a one-bedroom with or without a shared bath for $800, give or take, and that includes all the utilities. So it's just real simple and affordable. So that's what we're solving. And on the investing side, we're also being able to cash flow more. Now there's more expenses because we're covering the cleaning. We do that at least once a month. Landscaping, all the utilities, Wi-Fi, high speed Wi-Fi. we just set up a house in Denver. It's 6 beds, so it's kind of a unique layout. It's 3 upstairs with a shared bath and a kitchen and laundry, and then identical downstairs. So it's
So was that purchased as a duplex then, or was it purchased as just a single family 6-bedroom house?
yeah. The bedrooms downstairs in that layout were, I believe, added later. This investor, landlord, he's had the property since I think 2006 or 5, something like that, and he lived in it with his family. Family grew, and then they moved out, and he turned it into a rental. But recently, he's like trying to maximize his cash flow, so he's built out. You know, the kitchens downstairs is all brand new. Upstairs too, like everything's redone. So I think they added extra rooms down there. Oh, and by the way, they're all furnished. So
Okay.
some people that do rent them don't furnish them, but we're following the model of Pad Split, which is it's an app, a platform like Airbnb, but it's designed specifically for renting by the room. So we work kind of side by side with them, and they have a layer of their, rules basically, and they want the rooms to be furnished. So just makes it easy. So like, we've got a guy, he's stayed in 2 other Pad Split homes in Texas and North Carolina, I believe. He's moving to Denver and moving into another Pad Split, this house. And he doesn't have furniture to bring, so just
Sure.
easy to, he's flying in on the airplane, now having his car shipped. I don't know why he didn't drive, but flying in, and he doesn't have to do anything. He goes in, we have sheets and pillows, everything, so he just go get settled in.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think with some of these relaxing of laws, especially in cities like Denver in particular, where the affordability has become such an issue, and you have a lot of families living together anyway, just to be able to afford to stay here.
Yeah.
This allows that kind of an option for somebody who maybe doesn't have family that they can live with. It's a roommate situation. I mean, it's not a new model really, but it's a more directed toward houses rather than splitting the rents on an apartment. And so what is are you guys buying the properties then, or are you guys helping current landlords to kind of convert their properties to this model?
Yeah, both. If somebody's already got a property that fits it, and we have we can get into like what that looks like, what kind of a house. But if they've got a low interest rate already, they pay down their mortgage. Their mortgage is lower than going and getting a brand new loan at a higher interest rate. It pencils out, because it's, as you and I know, it's hard to pencil out rentals in Denver.
Absolutely.
It's challenging. So this is a way to make that work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about kind of what the economics of that look like if you're kind of running this model for a property that you're either buying or that you already own.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Where do you want to start with that?
I guess let's start with let's pretend I'm out there looking for an investment property that I want to buy. What am I looking for on the purchase, and what can I expect as far as output goes to kind of get this thing going? And then what do the rents look like? Are we doing long-term leases? Try to help me understand how we make this thing churn out some money for us.
Okay. Well, let's start with the ideal property. So, first of all, that law where there's no limit to unrelated people, an HOA can trump that. They have their own set of rules that they can layer over the top. They may, some HOAs may not allow any rentals. Some may allow them, but so we try to avoid areas that have HOAs. So that's kind of the big one. And then we want to find a 2,000 square foot house or more where we can have, it sounds like a lot, 6 to 8 bedrooms. like that one I was talking about. 'Cause we kind of look at it like the first 4 or 5 basically just cover mortgage and expenses, and then that, 6th, 7th, 8th, that's kind of where you're starting to get into some good cash flow. Then let's see, parking is one of the biggest issues, because if you're in a neighborhood and there's limited on-street parking and the neighbors start getting upset, it's going to be a headache for them and for us. So we want to find ones that have enough off-street parking, ideally like on a corner. As an example, the one that we just got online, it's got 1 driveway, 2 spots out front, ideally, without putting too much pressure, pretty much no pressure on the rest of the area. And then, so we're asking the 3 remaining people to just park on the side street, which is 2 houses over. So they got to walk, by 2 houses to get to it. So it's not an ideal situation, but we've figured out a way to make that work. So parking.
Sure. In exchange for cheaper rent, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Trade-off is there.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of the big one. Enough bedrooms. Yeah. So that's kind of.
Tell me, like, where are you guys getting furniture from?
Amazon.
Okay.
Mainly Target. So we have a really comprehensive checklist that we go through. So when we go into a house, if we're just trying to help somebody analyze an existing property or go find a new one, like we go, room by room and have a checklist of all the things we want to have in there. And there, we've got basics, like we want a bed frame and a mattress, and we do memory foam, so it ships easy, comes in a roll. All the bedding, want a closet or at least an armoire to put clothes in. And like this house that we set up, we got a desk in 5 of the 6 rooms. There's 1 smaller room, so it doesn't have a desk. Every room has a TV. It's not a requirement, but it's a nice to have. Probably, you can get a TV pretty cheap on Amazon. So
Sure.
A lot of these things, we've got a whole Amazon, a list. So we share that with our investor. They can go through, just click, and takes the guesswork out of it. So, and we know, like, if we order a dresser, is it going to hold up? Is it a pain to put together? You could go to IKEA, but theirs might be harder to put together. Those kinds of things we keep in mind. So.
Okay. And then is every room getting rented out for the same amount, or is, for example, the room without a desk going a little bit cheaper than the others?
Yeah, we adjust them for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
So like the one I mentioned that doesn't have a desk, I think that was $800. The other kind of medium-sized rooms are all $850. And then, like I said, they come with desks and TVs. And then we've got one, it's a bigger room. It's got a mini fridge in it, so that one's going for a little bit more.
Okay.
And then if they have their own private bath, that's going to be more, and some people might not be able to afford that. They might want it, but it's there for people that can.
And then discussing parking, I mean, are the guys who are getting, are they paying extra for driveway parking or out front parking versus parking on the side street?
Yeah, at least for this house we're using as the example, the person that ends up, because we have 1 person moving in today, so we just got it online, so we got to fill 5 more rooms. So the guy that booked this one, he actually picked the smallest room. So and we put this in our notes that whoever pays for the bigger room also gets the driveway. But if for some reason they don't have a car, who's next? And we may charge for that. Same thing with like storage. I know some people will split up a garage or a storage shed, and maybe charge a little extra, or make that just a value add, so it's more attractive versus other co-living homes. So
How hard is it to find a property? Because that's a lot of bedrooms. 6 to 8 bedrooms is quite sizable.
yep.
How easy is it, I guess, to find these types of houses that'll match this model for you in let's call it the Denver metro area?
Yeah, it's actually not too hard. I know of people that have taken 3-bed houses and added a bathroom and 2 to 3, even more bedrooms. So, but yeah, there's like when you go to get financing. So there's a lot of subtleties to this. If you want to go, do a cash out refi after you bought it. Well, if you've added all these extra rooms, you don't have comps to compare to. So the insurance company and the lender, especially the lender, they don't have any. They can't give you an added value. So what they typically will do is look at it as a short-term rental, like underwrite it that way.
Okay.
So that's kind of your cap on what your value would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say typically they don't. Lenders are not big on rent by the room, at least yet. And I think, as markets shift and adapt, lenders tend to follow with their own guidelines, and maybe it's a higher interest rate to accommodate what they see as added risk. I know that short-term rentals for a long time were hard to underwrite as rental properties. A lot of the alternate, non-QM lenders have now kind of adapted and said, okay, we will underwrite based on whatever AirDNA estimated rents on a short-term rental property in that area would be, as long as there's some sort of comparables. I think eventually they'll catch up, but for now it's probably going to be a little tough to find financing that will accommodate this. So you have to get it to underwrite to a different standard, and then use this to just make more money for you.
Yeah, we're finding lenders, and sometimes they'll kind of back off. So it's kind of a moving target, but so
Sure.
yeah.
That's an interesting strategy for sure. I think it's as we see, especially in larger cities, homelessness becomes a problem. The cities themselves try to find ways to create more affordable housing. There's just only so much housing available. I know Denver has also passed some laws recently to allow ADUs to become easier to add to single-family properties with some space for them. And so they're trying to find these other ways to create additional housing that can be more affordable. For example, at my house here, we have a double lot. I could easily toss an ADU on the backside of this lot and rent that out, and that's just another way to create some income. So the cities are trying to have homeowners help them with the crisis a little bit by giving them opportunities to create some income for themselves and provide housing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I would guess on these properties, a lot of properties that have unfinished basements are probably good targets, right? If it's a 3-4 bedroom house with an unfinished basement, it's an easy way you can add another bathroom, couple bedrooms, depending on the size of that basement. What about pop tops? Have you guys explored that as an option?
I haven't really looked into that. We've talked about ground up construction. We've got some people in our mastermind in other states that are doing that. We've actually got an architect that worked with our guy on the East Coast. That's also the architect's licensed here in Colorado. If anybody wanted to look into that, but yeah, basements is the main thing. So, like in identifying these properties, it's good if they have a floor plan, on the listing if we're buying on market. Sure. Otherwise, just going and walking it, because we want to look and see, is it stubbed in to add a bathroom? Does it have water, sewer? Can you put in egress windows? Because we want to be compliant and safe. So egress windows, for those that might not know, are just the bigger ones where you can get out, not little portholes. So we want to be able to put those in. And of course, we factor all this into our numbers. Might cost $5,000 to put in an egress window. Want to look forward. When are we going to recapture that? So there is an upfront cost to this. Adding bedrooms, egress windows, bathrooms, the furnishings, security cameras, all that stuff. keyless entry on all the locks. So we've got it really systematized. So every interior lock, exterior lock has codes, so we can give somebody a code, shut it off when they leave, all that stuff. Give our cleaners the codes, whatever they need to do. So
Very cool.
Really created a very professional way to run this.
Sure, running it almost like a like a long-term kind of hotel type of situation. What is the dynamics there? I guess when you get multiple, at least strangers initially living together, have you seen any sort of I don't know, any sort of interesting kind of issues with that?
Oh yeah, there's people are people, man.
Yeah.
So we like with working with Pad Split, they help kind of triage issues through the platform, try to resolve anything. We're much more involved with that too. So we communicate with people outside that platform as well. So that's one of the big questions about that. How do you get people to get along? And a lot of it just comes down to how we frame it when we first meet them. Bring them into the house. I like to have them introduce themselves, say what they do for work and what they like to do for fun. And kind of the art of this is creating that sense of community. Not everybody will plug in, but we want to make it a home that people want to come home to and not feel uncomfortable. But
Sure.
Issues come up. Some people might not get along, and so we can, we've got multiple Pad Split homes, and I've got some friends that do this on their own as well. So if somebody just wasn't liking a house, or everybody else didn't like that one person, ask them to leave, and give them, maybe they go to another home, where they get along with everybody. So
in the network or something.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I guess from an investor standpoint, what does it look like comparing like how much you would make from taking that single family home, renting it to one family, versus short-term rental versus co-living?
Yeah. So, you might be making in Denver. What would you say a regular rental would fetch with a brand new loan?
Talking six bedroom place. Oh man, I mean you're probably talking $3,500, $4,000 a month,
Right?
Depending on the area.
Yeah. So your loan is going to be pretty similar to what you can get for rent, or under. Like we look at so many deals that they don't even pencil. Like you're underwater.
Right.
And I mean that's the situation California's in. People that have rentals have had them for forever, or they buy them and they just go, okay, we're not going to cash flow for 5-10 years, and then eventually we might start cash flowing, but we're building equity, right? So different ways of thinking about it. But like with this, like I said, we do have expenses, management, us and Pad Split, all the utilities, adding the furnishings and stuff, so that it's pretty high. But we are getting more. So, if you're getting 800, we basically run our numbers at $850 per door.
Sure.
Times 6.
Was that
Then you're cash
5,100?
flowing. Yep. If you maybe have a 7th bedroom or an 8th, maybe the house has an ADU, and you got 2 more rooms in that or more. That's where you start really, covering your expenses and making the cash flow. So that's really the key for Denver. Because of our high prices, is getting enough rooms in there without it being crowded.
Yeah, here it gets a little difficult. Colorado's in general a tougher market to rent in just because of the prices. But you take this same model to a lot of other markets, and it works like a charm because their rents are not that much cheaper, but the house cost is a lot cheaper. You might find a 6-bedroom house for $500,000. In Texas, certain markets in Texas might even be cheaper than that. Where here you might be paying $750,000, $800,000 for a property like that. So
Yeah.
I imagine that all of that has to factor into making this this a successful model.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and I was going to say, like, that 6-bedroom that we just went online with, we could take the living room and turn that into a bedroom, and it would still leave we got a pub table, and some people with pad split, they want to avoid couches where people can sleep, because we don't allow people to sleep over. No smoking. We got a layer of rules on there like that. But we want to be at least make it so that we can create a sense of community, even if we're not making as much. So, like for that house, we could add that 7th bedroom, but it would feel real tight, kind of more like a hotel.
There's no public space for everyone to kind of commune, together. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And this one has 2 living spaces, or shared spaces. One downstairs with a big kind of a family style restaurant table, where you could sit 6 or 8 people, and then upstairs also got that pub table, and then like a love seat and 2 chairs. We'll add games, cards and categories and Pictionary, that kind of stuff, so that people have something to do together, maybe create some conversation.
Sure.
So,
that's an interesting model for sure. Not one I've delved into much, so I appreciate you taking the time to teach us a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Tell us about a book that you read that you think everyone needs to read if they're kind of jumping into this investment world.
Oh, investment. I'm reading right now.
Or in general. I mean, any book you think.
I'll throw out a couple. So I'm reading The Art of Co-Living, which is like a Bible. Like, it was written by a guy that he runs like it's a international group for co-living. He goes into way more depth than I even want to read, but it's got some good info. And then I just finished How to Tell a Story. Now, this is kind of out in left field, but if you've ever listened to the Moth podcast, Radio Hour, or been to any of their in-person storytelling events, so they record all these and it goes to the Moth podcast. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, you could go listen to these personal stories. They'll set themes, and people tell their own personal stories. They're like 10 minutes, easily digestible. But I've loved that podcast. And then if you're here in Denver, they do have in-person ones. And then there's another one that I actually started going to first called The Narrators. They have that once a month at the, I can't think of the theater. You can look it up. They have the podcast too where they record it. But I bring it up because the Moth, over many, many years of having people come tell their stories, learned the best ways to tell stories. And some people are just natural master storytellers, and some people have a great story, but they have no idea how to tell a story. So they wrote a book that gives you the framework on how to tell a story. And it applies to every facet of your life. Like, we all as people learn the best from stories, right? And
Absolutely.
it's the best way to share, and sell. Like, for all of us blue collar wealth club, we're business owners. We're having to sell ourselves and our businesses, sell ideas to our husbands and wives and kids, so that skill set is huge. So I think
that's an interesting one. I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check that out, because I agree,
Yeah.
especially marketing. I mean, marketing is storytelling. Podcasting is storytelling. The better the story, the more engaging it is. And so you're right. It bleeds into every facet of your life. If you're out networking, people are drawn to people who are natural storytellers. It can be shown time and time again. You want to speak on stage, you got to learn how to tell stories. So no, that's a great one. I'll have to check that one out. That's not one I was familiar with. So awesome. Well, appreciate you taking the time to hop on and teach us a little bit about co-living. Like I said, it's a newer category for me, so I'm always interested to learn some stuff. So we'll definitely have to have you back on, and we can discuss, some of the other facets of what you guys do at Accelerated Capital. But yeah, thanks for hopping on today.
Oh, happy to. Always great to chat with my fellow rock star name.
That's
guy.
right. We gotta find some more of us.
Yeah.
I did once have a class where it was myself, and as the teacher's going through the roll call in college, there was also a Michael Jackson in my class,
Yep.
and then further down the list there was a Tina Turner.
Nice.
Professor was having a day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, James. We'll definitely have you back on, and until then, just take care and appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Till next time, guys. Thank you.